Every time we build and ship software, we learn something new. Understanding what worked and what didn't helps us build more confidently the next time around. That's why we're launching the Confident Commit newsletter. We want to help you make better, data-driven decisions. Subscribe today to Win It Software. CircleCI.com/newsletter.
Hello, and welcome to the Confident Commit, the podcast for anyone who wants to join the conversation on how to deliver software better and faster.
If you're looking to build a trusted ship, tune in, let's confidently commit. Oh.
I'm your host, Rob Zuber, CTO of CircleCI, a leader in all things CI and CD. Today, I'm joined by Ger McMahon, Head of ALM Tools and Platforms at Fidelity Investments. Ger, thanks so much for joining me and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rob. Great to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm super excited. As I was just saying, I don't know if I'm projecting, but I have a belief that Fidelity is a very large organization in a fairly regulated industry. And so the perspectives on just, how you do all the things that we love, right, in terms of delivering software effectively, innovating, all those things with that, right, in that context, is something that I'm super excited to hear about. So let's jump right into it. I guess, so that it's not just me projecting, can you just tell us a little bit about what some of the unique challenges are of operating, both at your scale and then in the kind of industry that you're in when it comes to, continuing to move forward to be effective to deliver software?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, it's actually very interesting. And, as a technologist, I think you get a variety of challenges based on, different aspects of being a company that's been around for so long, company that's got software that's 40 plus years old. So from way back in different languages and different times and different computes, all the way to modern cloud applications. So that gives that's one set of complexities and challenges that, a company that's been around for so long can offer. We have about 17,000 technologists in the organization. And they're spread across the different business types that Fidelity is in. So again, each business type is its own kind of unique business, and it's got its own unique type of technology stacks that they would deliver for their customers. And then we have the regulations. So whether it's a kind of like a SOC 1 type regulation or any HIPAA or any of those. So when you're trying to deliver software, you kind of have to be able to cater for all of those different types: maturity, different languages, different technology stacks, different kind of governance and compliance. And obviously, in today's world, security being the kind of thing that you must be built in by default. So how do you actually thread all of them across? So it is unique, and obviously with scale, with cloud organizations, from business perspectives, velocity and speed and time to market is hugely critical. But obviously then how do you do that as well as maintaining stability and reliability? So it is a big challenge. And we rise to it by, we're kind of focused on more how do we enable through platform or a platform, software delivery platform, how we can enable developers essentially try to just focus on their code. So what is the business value they're delivering, and how do we look then at pushing things into the platform layer so we don't require every single team to, put a security scan in their pipeline or in their software delivery process, or add a linter here or use this tool here. So yeah, to try and address all of them and, be able to do it on behalf of people and teams and do it at scale.
And one of the things that you mentioned there that's really interesting is you have different divisions. I'm assuming some of those are sort of grown up as there's different product offerings within Fidelity, maybe some acquisitions, different stacks within those. So how do you think about, platform organization wide and then, or enterprise wide, I'm not sure how you refer to it, and then platform kind of within one of those big groups that might be quite different from one of the other groups? Like, are there sort of different stacks of platform, or how does that work?
There would have been originally, we would each division or business unit. So you might have the kind of retail unit, or you might have the kind of workplace unit, or the traditional investor unit. So they all have different requirements, and they all have their own technology arms. So while I work in an enterprise technology function, each of the business lines have their own technology functions as well. So they're kind of enabled themselves. But I think trying to manage all of that infrastructure, manage those platforms, kind of takes away from their ability to create business value or their own business value. So as we look for, to be optimized and efficient and operate at scale, you have to set enterprise and standardize on certain things. Other than that, you just become inefficient, and it's very difficult then to kind of roll things out across 15 technology arms and 15 platform arms. Just a challenge that slows everything down. So we have looked to enterprise, at the center from a software delivery perspective. So where do we do our source code development? Where do we do our builds and our tests? And, how do we do our deployment? And how do we layer security kind of as a first-class citizen across that? It does produce challenges because teams have, the mobile is different and the web is different and a microservice is different in your infrastructure. So, we also try and figure out how do we enable teams to innovate, but also be able to, how do we contribute back then into the center? So we're always kind of allowing teams go ahead, but also being able to take that innovation and kind of bring it back and then be able to scale that out across the other organizations where they can benefit from it. So it helps us go faster by just having a central team that's got a set capacity be the only ones who can deliver.
Yeah, I really like that idea of, maybe individual business units can innovate, try some new things, but when you see something that's really working, bringing that to other groups. Is there sort of an organizational structure that allows that to happen, in the sense that, leads or representatives from these different groups are talking to each other, or is it really on you and your organization to identify those innovations and say, hey, I think this is something that would solve sort of other teams' problems?
Yeah, I think, we have kind of centralized innovation groups, or applied technology group, or Center for Applied Technology, and we've a labs organization, and they do more of the business innovation, where you can go there and with a business idea and pitch it and kind of go through the funding process and the resourcing process, et cetera. But when we look at kind of like small, if you think of small I innovation out in the teams, when you've got, globally distributed organization with globally distributed technology and technologists and teams, communication is difficult, and trying to get, how do you know what's going on where? So we try to operate where we, if we not quite guilds, but we have kind of councils. So there's a DevOps council for software delivery, where we have a key player or key players from each business unit, where we participate it's bi-weekly, and we share ideas, share thoughts, and share what's going on not only from the center, but also what's going on in each of the business units. We also in our group, we run what we call working groups. So we ask for all the business units to have participants as part of that working group. And then obviously we've distribution channels or kind of Teams chats and things like that. So we're kind of trying to spread tentacles across all of the different organizations, and kind of at different layers of the organization as well. So we can tap into what's going on and, learn, then get involved and collaborate more and learn more and kind of understand then how we can share back out. So it takes effort, absolutely, but it's definitely worthwhile.
Yeah, that makes sense. And is there, I guess, across different business units, maybe, everyone's kind of trying to solve their own problems and they have different specific needs. Are there, I guess, areas where it's easier to experiment? Like, I don't know how to think about it, because I know a little bit about banks or sort of investment, but, maybe consumer is more risk tolerant than, wholesale or sort of, workplace or something like that. Like, are there areas that tend to be pushing the envelope just because they have a little bit more flexibility and a little more risk tolerance?
Yeah, it's actually a great point. And you, definitely you do see that. So if we take maybe more the retail, so the web end, you've got greater flexibility because you can use things like feature flagging, for example, or you can roll out changes at a much higher velocity and a much greater speed, versus I want to change something in a trading system, right? So changing a UI versus changing a trading system, the risk of that change is very, very different. So, I think contextually within an application, I think we do see more web type or microservices where it's much smaller, where you can roll back much quicker. And what we have found with those teams who, where that facility is there for them, they tend to be kind of more advanced because they want to they automate much more, and they've got the ability and the capability to automate much more, including the rollback. So that kind of allows them to go faster and iterate faster. But yeah, we definitely see it there. The other place we try to encourage it is internal applications, so where they're more employee facing or associate as we call them. So there you obviously you're not infecting any customer externally, so it's internally. So we can look at different tiered applications, and a lot of people might try there first before kind of looking to adapt that and then kind of move it into other customer facing kind of applications.
Yeah, that's such an interesting concept that I think like in smaller organizations, startups, we don't really spend that much time thinking about internal applications. We might have a couple things optimizing our, connectivity between our CRM and our, data store, whatever. But other than that, it's so outwardly focused. Yeah. So I think you said there's 17,000-ish technologists. Like you don't have to give me numbers, but what percentage of that is actually going to sort of operating the enterprise, like internal facing tooling versus customer facing sort of applications to drive the business? I don't know.
Drive the business. Yeah. I wouldn't have the exact breakdown, but we have I think last time I looked, we had about just over 14,000 people committing into the code repositories. I think if I thought about breaking that down between internal and external, you'd probably think about 5,000 to 6,000 of them I think would probably be more internally focused. So probably about 50%, you could say, would be internally focused on applications. And even with our external applications, people still build their internal, they're still building support things for within their organization, whether it be knowledge sharing or back-end processes or things like that wouldn't necessarily touch the front end. But yeah, I'd say about 50%.
Interesting. Yeah, that's definitely not the split that we have. But, as I think about it, we take data out of our product and put it into business analytics and all those sorts of things to help us make decisions about how to drive the business. Like there's more, as you were describing it, I was realizing it's more than I actually think that is going to, making decisions about how to operate the business, driving, our go-to-market teams and all those sorts of things. So we do make investments there. And it is interesting to think about just the opportunity to experiment, right? Because the impact is going to be internal. You say to your employees, hey, sorry, there's an incorrect number here. We're just going to go fix that sort of thing versus putting something out there, for all your customers to see.
People they don't necessarily think about it. Yeah. And again, it's much better because you can be, I'll do a deployment, I'll learn and just roll back. And as you said, especially if it's in a smaller group, then, people don't mind it being down and they're not necessarily looking at that application, all day long. So it is a vital asset, I think, to help test out things.
Got it. Well, speaking of the large organization, I think of CI and CD, like I spend a lot of time thinking about the technology and the tools and the product, but ultimately I think it is a cultural thing, right? Like my desire to move quickly, to ship, to put things out, to learn, all of those things are critical. And without them, I just have a tool, right? And so I'm curious how you manage culture at that scale, right? Are there, I'm sure you're hiring new people all the time. People are coming through, they're moving throughout the organization. Like, are there sort of hallmarks or core values that everyone knows? How do you instill those? Is it something you focus on in hiring? Is it something you build, internally? Just what's your view on how to get 17,000 people aligned around, what really matters and how to think about software delivery?
Yeah, I think you think about this a lot, actually. And I would think if I go back a couple of years, I would think, developers love technology. That's why we got into this career, and that's what we love doing. And I think we, when when life was simpler, when you had a data center and you had a much easier way to, and less things involved between you writing your software in your keyboard and that turning up in production, it was quite a simple process, really, in comparison to today's world. Today, now you have infrastructure as code, you have, like, if you're doing any ingress or egress, you have security groups, you have networking, you have all of this extracurricular work that you never had to deal, that was provided in this kind of your data center with the four walls previously. So I think kind of that dynamic will change for what's the responsibility of developer. I think that's tended to takes up capacity and takes time. So I think there's an openness now by developers saying, well, how do I offload that bit so I can actually work on delivering for my customer? So I think that has helped I develop the philosophy and the change where people are open to, okay, this bit I'm willing to give away so I can spend more time focusing on my customer. So we constantly look at it through that lens, and then we try to create the culture of openness and contribution. So inner source as a philosophy, the way we want to work. I think that also helps people because I've not taken away, something from them and kind of closed the door. I've kind of said, okay, well, we can mine this as a capability, but you're free to come in anytime you'd like and contribute if there's something missing, or you think, you found something new that you would like to, innovate on or test out or provide to the organization. So I think that's really, really helped build confidence and build trust in the developers on a centralized function team. And so it still allows them kind of maintain their destiny and allows them to remain connected to technology. So I think that's a big, big thing. And I think also we want to shift away from my favorite tool kind of paradigm. If everyone has one, I think a lot of times it goes and thinking about more is, again, I'm innovating for my customer, I'm innovating on the business, I'm innovating on ideas, and does it really matter how that is carried into the hands of the customer? It's a very important piece, but really it's not, the most important thing is we get that into the hands of the customer. I think helping people focus there versus, this tool versus that tool, and, just building that understanding with them of, what security means and how we can enable security, because not everybody's a security expert. So therefore, friction can be introduced if you don't kind of adopt the platform standard. So I think it's education, sharing that knowledge, kind of reinforcing that knowledge with them. And I think then you get the buy-in across the board.
Yeah. And all of that makes sense. And now I'm just kind of curious, I'll call it the other way. Like a lot of that is inwardly towards, your R&D organization, the technologists, et cetera. And then I imagine the shift, like not just going back a couple of years, but, in a pretty old organization, technology as a foundational element of the business is probably not where Fidelity started, right? Maybe it is, but how does that, the support, like from the boardroom perspective, the C-suite perspective, like has there been a shift in the culture, I guess, of Fidelity over those years towards, our opportunity is really in technology, our opportunity to differentiate, to compete, to win customers, all of those things are tied to technology. And so, we need to create this culture where people are really focused on delivering customer value, et cetera. Like, is that a shift that's had to happen all the way up again to the boardroom level? Like, where does that sit at Fidelity?
Actually, it's the complete opposite. I think technology, going right back to the Johnson family and right through to our current CEO, Abby, technology has been the heart and innovation has been the heart of the business. I think, they were the first, mutual fund with a website, and they've invested in technology year on year. And it's really, and I think one of my CIO looks at it as we're a technology company that does financial services versus the financial services company that might leverage technology. So trying to think that way, and obviously, having a culture like that, we are a technology company in this financial services industry. So we really do promote that within, and really do invest in that to help, build phenomenal products that, and create products that, very quickly, the world changes very quickly in today's, crypto or Bitcoin, and you've got, you have the whole cloud thing, and market goes up and down every day. We're managing money on behalf of, people and their financial well-being. So it's really important, and it's something we hold to heart, that, we need to be there to serve them. And so, and that's via technology. If you think of today's world where everything's at our fingertips, and news can have an impact on, on a financial well-being of an individual. So being able to have, you through technology have access to your products and services and Fidelity at your fingertips at the moment when you need them, I think is hugely critical for us and very important to us. And so that's why we play there.
Yeah, I love that. Like, a technology company that happens to do financial services. And I think, I mean, first of all, I assume that makes your job much easier, because I've definitely met, financial services companies that are just learning to do technology. And I often joke that the car that I drive now in 2024 is a computer that happens to have wheels. Like, the way that a lot of organizations have shifted. And if you look at the car industry, for example, I think many of those companies have struggled, right? Because they think of themselves as, we're a very mechanical company. Oh, I guess we need to do some software development. And the ones that have sort of come up later as, we're a technology company, but we happen to be building cars or whatever. Like, you can see that difference in all of those industries. So I mean, that's great. I'm happy that, and we were talking before the show, but certainly I can only speak to the U.S. market. Like, Fidelity is a very successful player in this market from a consumer perspective. And I think that's part of it, right? It's just how easy it is to use, and nicely integrated with the workplace, all of that. It feels like one experience, all of those pieces. So, all right. Well, hopefully you got the preamble on this, but I'm going to shift into this little bit that we've started doing because we love it, the green build feeling. And, I'm a big proponent, or whatever. I would say, like, yes, it's important to have red builds because it tells you when something's wrong. And I feel like I want to know that. I want that safety. On the other hand, I think developers love the rapid feedback and that feeling of like, it's working, I'm doing the right thing, I'm making progress. And certainly I would say, as you get higher into management, leading large organizations, your feedback cycles tend to get a lot longer, and you don't get those little all day long dopamine hits of sort of like green tests, green builds, etc. But can you tell us a little bit about a green build feeling that you've had recently, where something, you're trying to get something to go and it really worked and just gave you that positive momentum, that positive energy that you were on the right track?
Yeah, I think it's, and I might answer it a small bit differently, in the sense that I provide a service for all of the Fidelity developers, right? Mm-hmm. So we get 17,000 developers, 14,000 committing, many applications, pipelines and builds and going around simultaneously. So I think one of the huge things for me where we get a big hit is like, so if you take a pipeline, for example, they're getting longer and longer and longer and longer and longer because we were asking teams to put more and more into them based on, the nature of cloud security, different types of resources they needed to create in order to kind of stand up their application, is reducing that. And seeing that build go on every build, saying, okay, I want to do a security scan, or I want to do a code quality scan. And the developer is just merging a PR, creates a PR, and suddenly these checks are just appearing automatically for them in their PR. And they don't even realize that their build is secure, or the build is high quality, and getting that feedback to them in the most, the best place possible for them, so they're in their flow, so they can provide it right there. Oh, this can't go any further. I can come back, refactor, re-go again, and the turnaround time is very limited. So you get that fast feedback in the moment, where the best moment is, and then from providing that then defense in depth or breadth, where we can at the end kind of verify everything, and then to our security organization, our governance, or our audit, we can provide that picture to say everything's good. So I get that green feeling when I see all green across the board and people have done nothing. And we've raised the bar for the entire organization.
I love it. I think that is the idea. That's the platform team ideal, right? Which is we've created the environment in which people can deliver. They're getting the fast feedback, but they didn't have to think about it, right? You talked earlier about the cognitive load and complexity.
Yeah, and it's like, you take as other new technologies and new advancements in technologies become available, you can adopt or adapt them then into that process. And hey, we see you need to upgrade library ABC to the next version. Here's your PR. So even getting to the next level of kind of assistance we can provide to teams, again, to help them focus on the business value. And the more and more things I can see from us delivering that to our customers, which are developers, then I think that helps then as well for the adoption and the buy-in to this kind of way of working.
Right. Awesome. Well, it's the less metaphorical greenfield fielding, more just aggregate greenfield fielding. That's what we call it. Like when the whole organization is humming, that probably feels awesome, right? Everyone is delivering value. Means you've done your job really, really effectively.
It's really good. So it's an aggregate for me because I look at my customers. So my green build might be, but when I really see the benefits of the scale of the benefits when we do something, even if it's something small, but it benefits a large, and the satisfaction you get from that just makes you want to do more. I think it also creates energy in the system, builds confidence and trust in the system, and people are more likely to buy into that system and as well. And then you get, I want to contribute to that. And I think it's all kind of, everything kind of works together as a machine, and one thing can drive another thing, and and create that kind of sustainability and scale. Yeah.
Feels like compound interest is probably a reasonable metaphor to use in this conversation. But those things stacking on top of each other, that's awesome. And you used flow in there as a reference in terms of just, I get the feedback. We talked about fast feedback. Like as a developer, it is. I should be able to get that really quickly because that's going to allow me to stay focused on the task and get it done.
The task, I think there's awesome. Nothing where,
I mean, one of the things that I think about at scale, and I mean, we're not 17,000 people, but we have a very large scale of customers building on top of our platform, is like you make a small incremental, 1% change for 14,000 committers is enormous in terms of return to the organization, right? Rather than each of those people trying to have their little 1%, putting in their own effort to get that 1%.
Exactly. As you say, if you can, not that we do it, productivity is it's a kind of a hard thing to even do or to justify or, kind of quantify. But you can say, if I can give 5 minutes to everybody a day, and then you multiply that out, that's a huge amount of time when you add it all up. And I think, and it just generate. Like I think it's like a kind of the mass movement. It generates this kind of thing. Oh, we got this, and then it just generates interest and kind of makes the next one easier and easier. And people start looking for more, which I think it promotes creativity. It promotes innovation. Oh, we found this 5 minutes here. If we can find another 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and it just promotes that, and that's kind of promotes the culture, and that's how we grow the culture.
Yeah. Amazing. Awesome. Love it. Well, Jared, thank you so much. This has been exactly as anticipated, a fascinating adventure into doing all of these things at scales that many of us don't think about. And maybe some of us are excited that we don't have to think about, but when you get there, it's clearly very rewarding because, again, it compounds so much. Thanks to everybody who's listening. Thanks for joining us on this. If there's something specific you want us to talk about, someone you want us to interview, find us on Twitter at CircleCI. You can find me on LinkedIn, Rob Zuber. And of course, share with your friends, subscribe on your podcast provider of choice. And Jared, thanks again for joining me today. This was great.
Thank you very much, Rob.